I'm not crazy. I lived in a two-room apartment with my parents on the outskirts of the city. I had my own room, recently appeared after the death of an uncle who lived with us. I didn't like my uncle, he was a hopeless drunk, but I was glad of the room. To tell the truth, I have lived for 20 years and have never had my own corner. My parents earned little, of course they saved. My father had two not expensive foreign cars, but they did not reach the apartment. The five-story Soviet era house, in which our apartment was located, looked decent and recently underwent major repairs. Nothing unusual was noticed throughout my life until one night, which pretty much ruined my nerves and caused part of my brain to turn into porridge. It was a very ordinary day, after which came the most ordinary evening, which gradually turned into the most unusual night. The day passed as always: work, home, book and sleep. No feelings of anything unusual. I didn't experience anything at all. I've heard how people feel if something terrible is going to happen to them, but my sixth sense was silent. It's as if he didn't exist at all. I have never complained about my intuition, and it has never let me down. If I had known that this night would change my life, I would have taken all measures not to wake up when it was still dark. I would go to the pharmacy, buy diapers for adults, and believe me, there would be absolutely no shame in the situation. I would have taken a double dose of a powerful sleeping pill at night so that I would surely wake up only by lunch and no bladder would wake me up. I have a habit of drinking water at night. I drink a lot of water and it makes me fall asleep better, but every time I get up in the middle of the night to satisfy the need of the bladder. I didn't change my habits that night either. And I'm very sorry about it. But it's too late to change anything. The time machine has not yet been invented. This night was no exception, and my sleep was disturbed by the liquid accumulated inside, which I urgently needed to get rid of. I assure you, it was only she who disturbed you. I didn't notice any noises, creaks and a feeling of something extraneous presence. But I want to remind you that I was sleepy. Automatically, falling asleep on the move, I got to the restroom. In this state, I could not relieve myself standing up, so I sat down on the toilet seat and almost fell asleep again. Then my way went through the bathroom. After washing my hands, I also washed my face. The dream was pushed aside a little, but this is for a while. For a very short time. The situation in the bathroom was as follows: opposite the exit there was a sink, to my right there was a washing machine with all sorts of junk on it, in the likeness of shower gels, various shampoos and air fresheners. Above the sink is a small mirror, usually used when shaving. From it there was also an excellent view of the exit from the room itself. On the left hand, the bathtub itself with a curtain twitching on it. Now it was open. I pressed my lips to the faucet, filled my mouth with water, straightened up, and, looking in the mirror, took one sip. Repeated the procedure. The third time, when I straightened up to take a sip of cold water, I also looked in the mirror, and that's when I got a shiver. It took me a while to get the water out of my mouth. Neither inside nor back into the sink. What I saw in the mirror shocked me. Sleep boldly as a hand. In the doorway, which was visible through the mirror, I saw a silhouette slowly walking along the corridor, from the kitchen towards the room. I saw him at the moment when he was passing by the opening to the bathroom. He walked slowly. Without turning his head in my direction. Stooped, all in rags, with long black and dirty hair. The skin on the face was dry, the eyelids were sunken. I couldn't see my eyes. He slipped through in an instant, absolutely not making any sound. I held my breath, hoping that he wouldn't hear me, wouldn't come back. But the faucet was not closed and the water was still noisy. After about 2 minutes, I remembered to breathe. He swallowed the contents of his mouth with difficulty. My lips are dry. I was really scared. I was afraid to turn on the light because I would have to stick my hand out into the corridor. I was afraid to look in the mirror, but I stubbornly looked because I was even more afraid not to see. I was afraid to blink. Closed my eyes, opened them again, and discover that silhouette is some 20 centimeters behind me. I'm rooted to the floor. I became mute, I couldn't utter a word. My brain seemed to have left me. I hysterically remembered all the horror movies I had ever watched. Despite the whole nightmare, the heart was beating slowly, as if nothing had happened. After a while, an eternity passed for me, I began to trust my heart. It suggested that nothing had happened. The sleepy brain decided to take revenge on me for my nocturnal adventures and threw me a vision in the form of the silhouette. An unfunny harmless joke of the mind. That's what the steady rhythm of my heart told me. And I believed him. My whole consciousness tried to suggest that this could not be. Nothing extraneous, whether it was a thief from the street or something from the other world, could not appear here. The front door is closed for a few turns, and there is nothing for ghosts to appear here. In any case, they never appeared, and why should they disturb the peace of our family now? Having laughed a lot at myself, I stepped into the corridor. He took a step into the darkness. I didn't turn on the light, my ego would have suffered. To turn on the light meant to fall for the mockery of his own brain. To admit that I was afraid of the dark, and I haven't been a child for a long time. I walked slowly to my room. My eyes saw well in the dark, and I looked around the whole room from the threshold. Nothing. Everything is in its place. I took a deep breath, it wasn't enough, so I took another one, and only then I had the courage to get to the bed in 2 jumps. Instantly I covered myself with a light blanket, although it was hot. I'm under a blanket, which means I'm not in danger. I was lying on my back with my eyes open, carefully studying the ceiling. I didn't notice the smell right away. It stank of rot and something rotten. The source was very close. I already understood where, but I continued not to believe. Very close. Tears appeared in my eyes, a moment later they rolled in an endless stream, flooding my ears and increasing the humidity of my pillow. The smell was getting stronger. And although I refused to believe it, I knew for sure that the source of this stench was not approaching, but it was not moving away either. He was not mobile. He was looking at me. I could hear him breathing. I heard it because he was lying next to me. My double bed and something that was breathing in my ear, which was the source of the stench, was lying on the edge. I wasn't breathing, my heart recognized a danger and adrenaline filled my body. I started pounding. Blood was rushing through his veins at a frenzied pace, his brain was frantically trying to think. I didn't scream. I forgot I could talk. Now I was chained to the bed and turned my head against my will. Turned slowly. His face appeared in front of my face. The red eyes stared at me. The face is all scarred and something else. It seems to be some kind of liquid. Smeared with dirt, dried blood. The eyes are not human, but not animal. It was smiling. It was her, I couldn't define it, but I felt it. Where was my intuition before? She was smiling. Exposing to me his big sharp teeth, from which drool, foam, blood dripped. I do not know. It was something dripping on my sheet, blanket, pillow. The stench pierced the consciousness. There was only one phrase in my head. No, 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 this can't be, no. Please no. It sounded only in my head, I could not pronounce no sound. With this phrase, I rejected what I saw. I tried to force myself not to believe. But I saw. I believed. I knew. She was lying and grinning. Dry lips spread from ear to ear, and it was impossible. I know it's impossible. In some places there was no skin on the face. In these places, you could see cheekbones, you could study the anatomy of the person, but only it wasn't a person. She smiled even wider. She bit my shoulder sharply with her teeth. I didn't scream. It hurt like crazy, but I couldn't scream. My brain shut down. I myself fell into the abyss, into the hopeless darkness. My parents found me in the morning. They woke me up. Tears were running down my eyes. The blood that poured out of my bitten shoulder turned the bedclothes red. I haven't wet my bed in a very long time. And then a 20-year-old young man wet himself. The bite hurt, but it wasn't there. There was not even a trace of teeth. There was nothing that could confirm my words. And I told, repeated, described. And remembering, I cried again, trembled again. He assured me that it was not a dream. Only I believed in my fairy tale. I refused to go to a psychiatrist. But my parents only wanted the best for me. 2 men in white pinned me down. I struggled. They put a straitjacket on me, right in my house. In my fortress, in my room. 2 months already in this hospital, among the damn psychos who think they're great. Hitlers, Napoleons, paranoids. Someone repeats the same word and it's terribly annoying. Someone constantly looks at you, looks when you fall asleep, looks when you sleep and it scares. But I'm not crazy, I'm sure of what I saw. They're nuts, I'm not. Doctors are crazy because they don't believe me, I don't. They stuff me with pills that make me stop thinking even where you are. I lost my coordination of movement and now I can't go to the toilet without help. But I know perfectly well what I saw and every day my confidence in this only grows stronger. Walking past the medical staff, carefully, holding on to the wall, I see her in them. She looks at me and smiles, showing her teeth again and again. They're fangs. Blood flows from her inflamed eyes, tears flow from mine. She comes to me in a dream and smiles, then bites and I wake up. The bite sites are always different and they always hurt. I'm tired. I'm not crazy. They're nuts, I'm not.